Welcome to a client forum that we are going to talk about today as we're towards the end of the year. It is the holiday planning and personal power planning for 2021. The reason I added those two together, typically around this time of year, we talk about the holidays in general, and I've sort of got a spiel that I go through to help remind people about things they can do that keep them powerful through the holidays into the next part of the year. But this particular year, 2020, has its own special challenges. And I wanted to address those first and then address the holiday piece to that. So, the first thing that I want to address is emotion. Okay, so this has been, if you are a logical person, this has still been an incredibly emotional year. And so, whether or not we're having holidays the way that we have in the past, or even just during this time of year when you might go on vacation and go travel and do things, things are different this year. So, since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, we've been managing our grief cycle. And I just want people to be prepared that this next couple of months, we're probably going to be in a grief cycle again. So, one, to just have some awareness about that. So, you're going from that anger and denial piece at the beginning of your grief, then working through that depression, bargaining, and getting to acceptance. And what I want to encourage you as leaders, for the people that watch this or share this with other people, that the idea of getting through that grief so that you can get to acceptance and have a holiday is super important. So it may not look the way it has in the past. And interestingly, we always touch on that, the idea of looking at the holidays, you're revisiting, oh, what did I do last year, or how was last year, what was my favorite year, and all of those things come up. You'll be doing the same thing this year, and it may look completely different. So you just want to get to the point where you've done your bargaining about what's the plan for this year, because that's really where you'll get to then the next part, which is acceptance. So think about what your plan is. Think about what you alternatives are. Think about your creative solutions, because there are creative solutions for all of these situations that we're in. And people are sacrificing right now and having to make sacrifices. It's much easier to make a sacrifice if you are choosing to make the sacrifice. So that's why we have to get to the acceptance piece, so that we are understanding, I'm making the sacrifice and it's my choice. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to just hit on is that crisis seems like a brief thing that happens. But even if you were in a car crash and that was your immediate crisis, that crisis happens, but the results of the crisis typically go much longer. So we're still in crisis. So, like, the car crash is still happening. The results of that aren't to go back to normal. The results will be that things will be different. And so I think there's an acceptance piece on that also. It helps to understand that it's not brief. This is not a brief moment in time. This is a shift. We have changed, we shifted, we're doing things differently, and we are still in crisis. So there's a lot of unknowns. So if you can think about that, this is not a quick thing, but these are the after effects, and we're still in it. And that takes a while. That will help getting to acceptance. So, what I want people to focus on this year during this time of the holidays is to really be thinking about what it is that your goals are. Um, this is something that is more challenging when you've got a lot of other unknowns, is sometimes to focus on what the goal is. But I want you to even think about something really small as a goal. So let's say, for example, that you're going into the Thanksgiving holiday. Maybe a goal would be that I'm going to really enjoy cooking. Okay. for some people like me, I used to only cook. I got to the point where I was only cooking during holidays. So I loved cooking on Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays and New Year's and big family events, but I got rid of the day-to-day cooking pretty much. And I've been day-to-day cooking for months. So maybe that's not where my pleasure is going to be about actually cooking during the holiday because I'm not going to have a big family event. So my goal might be to find something that I really have wanted to do, haven't had a chance to do. It might be to do your own turkey trot, where you say, on Thanksgiving, I'm going to do a 5K walk, even if it's just you or a family member or spouse. Maybe it's something creative that Thanksgiving morning that you're doing something for others. This is a time where our food banks are in desperate need of food. We have more people standing in food lines than we've ever had in my lifetime and many, many people's lifetimes. So maybe it's the giving part. And anytime that you are doing anything that is of service where you're giving to others, it will create really good feelings. So if there's a loss feeling, I would suggest a contribution or a donation or a charitable thing, because that actually will help with the loss feeling that you may be having about the grief of what your holiday would look like. So we go back to goals. I want you to think about during this time and moving into 2021, I want you to think of a priority goal for everyone would be a physical goal. And so, in looking at what the physical goal would be, it can be anything. It could be that you're going to develop a new yoga pose and master it. It could be that you are going to walk farther. It could be that uh, you're going to do more push ups on the counter. Whatever your goal is, I want you to pick a physical goal. There, do not underestimate the power of the physical goal, because if you have one physical goal while you're going through anything, just one physical goal, it keeps your body, it's like a pilot light for everything else, for your spiritual and your mental. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use my parents as an example. My parents, at the beginning of the pandemic, they didn't hike around in their neighborhood, but they started to do that during the pandemic because they couldn't go to their gym and they couldn't go do things. And so this was the year that my father and I actually were going to do the Camino de Santiago across Spain. And so we talked, and I said, how about you just pick a bunch of paths in your neighborhood and see how many you can cover. So that was his goal. So once he got all the different roads and everything, and they live up in the foothills, so there's windy roads up and down hills. And he and my mother started walking every day. And for my father, doing something on a daily basis to keep a streak is a huge thing for him. So it didn't matter necessarily how far he was walking, but that he did it every day. And then that every day, once he got to 80 days in a row, the power behind that is huge. And so I want you to be thinking about that. It could be something very, very, very simple like that. Now, here's what's interesting. Out of that daily goal that he had physically, he and my mother had her knee replaced in 2018. And so before that, she never could do this. Then in her birthday in August, they hiked on the top of the mountain in Albuquerque. They went across a hike from one part to the other. So they were at 9,000 feet and it was pretty straight, but they did 4 miles on her birthday, on her 80th birthday. She had never walked 4 miles at 9,000 feet in her entire life. And she accomplished that goal on her 80th birthday. So, what's interesting is that wasn't her goal. Her goal was to do something daily. And those daily things build power. And so, she was more powerful on her 80th birthday to accomplish a physical goal than she had been in her entire life. And so I want you to be thinking, what is something I can do? And it just needs to be a small thing. It will end up in a place like my mother doing 4 miles at her 80th birthday at 9,000 feet. If she would have chosen that goal at the beginning of this, I think that would have been harder for her. She just realized the goal because it was built on each of her accomplishments. Once they got up to 2 miles a day, that was great. Once they got up to 3 miles a day, that was great. Oh, sometimes then they got 4 miles a day. Most of the time, it was 3.5 to 4 miles. So, again, if they had started saying, I'm going to do that as my goal, it may have been hard. So, I want you to pick something that's small. So, starting with that physical goal, find a physical goal to carry you into 2021 and you can build from it. Then find a mental, emotional goal. And that is something that feeds your soul. Are those conversations with friends? If that's a happy hour Zoom call, if that is writing letters, writing emails, doing something that is an emotional connection for you. For a lot of people, that's going to be creativity. So whatever it is that makes you creative. So you've got your physical goal and you've got your mental, emotional goal, and then your spiritual goal. I would just say, regardless of your affiliation to whatever background, is to pick something that inspires something more than you, more than just you and your world. It's something that's bigger. It could be that it's a prayer meditation practice. It could be that it's just having a gratitude practice where you wake up every day and you list 10 things that you're grateful for before your feet hit the ground, which I do that all the time, which it makes my days completely different. But look at something that would build for you, that you could actually then the result of that physical, mental, and spiritual practice is that you become more powerful. You can create anything and accomplish anything if you have enough energy and enough power. And so these things are the things that will actually manage to make that power not only just be sustainable, but build. And then you can accomplish even more. So, this is the way we want to be positioned going into the end of the year, into the holiday season, and into 2021. And then next month, we're going to talk even more specifically about our goals and even the new year, because that becomes a lot of people's moment in time that everything shifts. So I'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks so much, or next month. Take care.